A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. Now, did you know that the Indian beauty industry has experienced unprecedented growth and transformation in recent years, emerging as one of the most dynamic sectors in the country? Whether they're global giants or age-old beauty rituals or local homegrown brands or innovative startups, this industry is seeing robust activity and growth like never before. Everyone who's someone in the beauty business is betting hard on the Indian market. So who better than the world's largest cosmetic and beauty company, L'Oreal, to throw light on some of these pertinent questions. Today in the studio, I have with me Aseem Kaushik, the Managing Director of L'Oreal India. Thank you so much, Aseem. I've been waiting to do this interview for a while. I'm so glad you finally had the time and we can make this happen.
Thank you, Sonali, for inviting me to Brand Equity.
Aseem, so you took over, 1st Jan 2023, so almost, over a year and a half as, the captain of the L'Oreal India ship. How's your journey been so far with the company and, of course, your stint as, the captain of the ship?
No, Sonali, so let me start because in L'Oreal, we are all very fond of telling stories.
Sure.
So the story is that incidentally, 2024 is the year when L'Oreal in India will complete 30 years of its existence. So in 1994 is when L'Oreal actually came to India as a 100% subsidiary and started its operation. And this was the time when I joined L'Oreal. So you know my vintage now. I've been there now for 30 years. I was part of the startup team of L'Oreal in India. And this was the time when we were launching a consumer products division with brands like Garnier.
Sure.
And so we were launching, opening up towns, states, setting up our warehouses, setting up our factories. Of course, our head office always remained in Mumbai, so we continue to be, our home state continues to be, Maharashtra, and which is where our factory and our offices are. But for 30 years, it's a great moment for me because after 30 years, I come back to this country now to head the business for L'Oreal. And it comes at a time when the country is going through a great opportunity and a transition from a world which is more globalized, overall potential of beauty industry suddenly starts to look very, very positive and very, very big.
Sure. So you have essentially taken on the mantle of really leading, L'Oreal in India at I think, a very buoyant time, especially when one talks of the beauty industry. So many new trends, so much more information, and just so much more exposure. It might be a good thing and a bad thing, both, but because, let's say 10 years ago, the only brand that came to our heads was L'Oreal. Today, we're much more cluttered. Having said that, what is the mandate you've been given?
So, Sonali, you have to know that from a larger potential point of view, in a country like India, which is emerging,
sure.
The macro factors are all in place right now. We have a very robust economy which is growing at anywhere between 6 to 7%, which would mean that there is going to be more and more affluence which will come into play in terms of the consumer for consumption of more categories which are disposable, right? So this is where the share of beauty needs to play its part. So overall, from a L'Oreal's, as a group, the larger story today is that we have been mandated to be the beauty leader, which is trying to provide beauty for all, right? But the fact is that today, the landscape in India is very, very evolved versus a lot of countries across the world. Today, we have a very highly digitalized consumers present in India, all of them connected through mobile phones, possibly a lot of them on social media. It's the same time they're today experiencing things which are happening across the planet at the same moment and having their opinions, etc., etc.
Sure.
So when that happens, you have to know that choosing what they have to choose between what all is available becomes a very important part.
So very tough.
So making and building your brands online and on digital becomes a very important part from what it used to be before.
Sure. Yeah.
And then the second part of it is the essential story of reaching out to these consumers to deliver your products,
Absolutely.
right? So it has become very easy now with the boom of e-commerce in India for the last 5 to 7 years for us to deliver our products to the 99% of the PIN codes available in India. So the two biggest barriers which any company could face in an emerging market with 1.4 billion people was this distribution story. So this barrier is gone. The second barrier was reaching out to the consumer, talking to them about your products, about your brands, telling them how they were different or more efficacious versus the others is also now easier. So with these two barriers gone, there is a huge opportunity now going forward and expectations, of course, when you're leading a company like L'Oreal in India.
A couple of rejoinders to that, just for my understanding. Can you give me the numbers? Like today in your India business, how much does, let's say, the e-commerce bit contribute to your overall revenue?
Yeah. So there are two things. So e-commerce now gives you a disproportionate access to consumers across the country, right?
Absolutely.
And it becomes then an online experience of building brands, telling them about your products, etc., and then eventually supplying to them.
Sure.
But in the same moment, offline also remains very, very important. So for example, L'Oreal in India, today we are present in about 1.8 million retail outlets.
Across the country.
Across the country. So which is not a small footprint overall in terms of distribution. So experiencing our brands, because in the end, beauty category is such a category where you need to really also touch and feel and experience and smell, right? So offline becomes as important as that. But e-commerce gives you a disproportionate opportunity of growing, right? And doing acquisitions of more and more consumers.
Sure.
So today, e-commerce is closer to almost 25% of our business in India.
25%?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And obviously that you are looking at that figure only growing.
Yes.
Okay. So 25%, that's not a small number at all. And the second thing is, I understand that we're a population of 1.4 billion people, and a lot of global companies look at us and salivate. But let's talk about the consuming class, right? So what that would be about 25 crores?
Yes, you're
give
right.
Or take?
Yes. So from our perspective, I think from people who could be our consumers or possible consumers, we're looking at people who earn more than $20 a day. So if you look at that math, there are about close to 250 odd million consumers today in India who are possible L'Oreal consumers, which we should be talking to. And these consumers, what we estimate in the next coming 3 to 4 years in terms of the economic growth, etc., and affluence, to be a population which would be closer to almost 350 million consumers. So
by which year?
By 2027. So we are looking at, in the next 4 years, 100 million more consumers getting into this bracket of $20 per day.
Of that 250, as of today, as we speak, how many are consumers for L'Oreal? If I could ask you to slice that.
So these are estimates.
Yeah,
you have to know that we have products which are at almost $1/2 in hair coloration, which go down very deep with brands like Garnier.
Sure.
And so we estimate that we have close to almost 100 million consumers in India today out of the 250 who buy our products one way or the other from any of our brands.
Got it. Before I get into more of, the business of L'Oreal in India, just to understand from you the broad trends of what we're seeing in the beauty market in the country, lots of numbers being thrown about, so I'd rather get it from you, right? So while everybody is stating that the beauty market is very buoyant in India, what would be the growth rate at the moment?
See, from our estimates, there is the offline growth, which is anywhere between 7 to 9%.
Okay.
All right. And this is what we see also in the results of some of the other bigger players in the market who are listed.
Sure.
And then the offline growth, the online growth, which is the e-commerce growth, which is there in the country right now, is estimated to be almost double of that.
I see.
So anywhere between 18 to 20%. So on an overall O+O level, the beauty industry remains very buoyant, closer to 9 to 10% CAGR.
And this kind of steep growth you've started witnessing from when?
See, it got into play when e-commerce became big. E-commerce, by the time e-commerce was, setting up, it was in its infancy, etc.
Sure.
It was a growth anywhere between 6 to 8% in the beauty industry,
Right.
which we had witnessed for a very long time.
Right.
And then what we always used to say that from a GDP growth, we would always do a rough math to say 1.5 times of GDP growth should be where the beauty industry should grow. And this then became very different because e-commerce started to become bigger. The online part, which grows much faster, where you can reach consumers much faster, the acquisition of consumers, and then coupled with the overall GDP growth, which now becomes anywhere between 6 to 7 to 8%, depending on the figure which you're looking at. It becomes even more dynamic. So you're looking at, let's say, at least a 10.5% CAGR growth in the next coming 3 to 5 years in India.
And what is the expectation from you?
So of course there is the huge responsibility of India business to the group of L'Oreal in terms of its contribution. We are very cognizant of that. Our estimations, or at least our mandate, is to grow anywhere between 1.5 to 2 times the market, whatever the market in the country is.
How is that possible, Aseem?
It is possible. I'll tell you why. Because firstly, you have to know that L'Oreal is a company which has been doing only beauty as its business for the last 115 years. And we are very proud of our 37 international brands present across the world,
Sure.
of which 12 of them are here in India.
Okay.
So starting from, and we have brands which cater to consumer cohorts at various segments. Starting from, we have divisions, if you want to call it, it's more technical, internal,
Sure.
channel story, but
Sure.
divisions. We have a luxury products division in L'Oreal where we have brands like YSL, Kiehl's, which is a skincare brand, and Lancome, which is a 3-axis brand. It has makeup, it has skincare and fragrances. And YSL, of course, now we just launched 2 weeks ago YSL makeup in India for the first time. And of course, YSL, as you know, has both men and women fragrances, myself and Libris, etc. So this is the luxury products division.
This would be the
top end of the affluent consumer.
Just before you move to the middle, how much, for instance, the top end of the pyramid, all these products that you mentioned, contribute to your total revenue in India?
It's small.
It's small.
It's small. It's growing fast, but it's small. We know that the affluent consumers or luxury consumers in India are few.
Sure.
Yes,
and also possibly shop abroad, right?
Yeah, most of them, which was exactly what I was going to tell you, that most of them travel very frequently, and so we have a very big business as a group L'Oreal in travel retail.
Right.
So most of the gondolas which you see when you're in the airport and going through your duty free, most of the brands present there are there from L'Oreal as well.
Sure.
So this segment is now becoming bigger. This part of luxury is growing at closer to almost, we estimate, anywhere between 30 to 35% on a CAGR level.
As a segment for the industry?
Segment, yes, for beauty industry. That's our estimate.
Okay.
And we think that it will continue to grow because affluence will continue to rise in India.
Sure.
And this will continue to grow.
I hope that's right.
Yes. Yes. And so but it's a very small part of the overall beauty industry.
So, sorry, but would you say I would be accurate in then stating that your biggest hindrance or barrier for players like yourselves, and especially you because you're the leader, is that to grow that category or that pie, which is actually the biggest margin, right, and makes more sense to grow that pie because it's small and it's growing, but because that lot in India is also very upwardly mobile, that buying abroad and not buying in India is a challenge. It may go into the L'Oreal kitty, but it's not going into the L'Oreal India kitty. You know what I mean?
Yes and no, because you have to also know that these consumers today, they are not buying in travel retail or when they're traveling abroad. They're not buying it because it's cheaper or much more expensive, the product, right? They buy it because convenience and time is a paucity or the biggest paucity with them, right?
Okay.
So when you have brands which they need on a regular daily level available right next door to them in India, most of them then tend to buy locally as well because it's replenishment. Most of these consumers are consumers who know very well the category. They know which product they want to buy.
Yes.
It's much more researched. Some of them stick to a lot of these routines which they have acquired or have thought about for a very long time, and
Right.
a lot of this part of the story becomes more replenishment, and then when it is right next door to you, you tend to buy more.
Is there a mindset issue with consumers, this category of consumers, where they think buying top quality products, right, in India versus, let's say, buying top quality products out of India, whether it be Dubai or it be Europe or the US or whatever it may be, is there a mindset issue of quality?
I'm not too sure. So it comes back to the whole story of trust, right? And then when you were talking about how the big brands, the big companies in this industry today versus a lot of new entrants who are coming in now, because the price of entry to this category is now much more lower than what it was before.
Sure, absolutely.
But if you have now 1,000 brands, let's say, coming into the category or the industry, what does the consumer do when there is a plethora of information and multiple brands?
Yeah.
What we've seen that is that this is where the underlying principle of trust becomes very important. And then you can see that the consumers in the end gravitate towards more known, bigger international brands. And hence, they know and they trust that brand to have the same product or quality of product if it is made locally versus what it is available, let's say, in Dubai or in the US or in New York or in London, etc.
Sure.
But will that be a question for a brand which they have never seen before or experienced before? Possibly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now coming to the big belly, I'm assuming majority of your customers in India specifically would come from this large belly, your middle range, right? Would I be accurate in saying that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we have the consumer products division, which actually you find brands like L'Oreal Paris, Garnier, Maybelline, which is for makeup. These are available in retail stores, of course, and of course online.
Yeah.
But these are accessible products on beauty and also accessible luxury products. For example, L'Oreal Paris is a brand which we love to call accessible luxury brand because it's bridge to luxury in terms of its pricing.
Sure.
And then followed by Maybelline, and then followed by Garnier, which has hair color. It's incidentally a category which L'Oreal leads in India in terms of its market share, and
Right.
we were the first ones to launch a cream colorant in India in 1996.
Okay.
Because you have to also know that from a point of DNA of L'Oreal, innovations form a very, very important part of our strategy when we are looking at growing.
Sure.
So, and how do you then make sure that there is a consistent flow of innovations in new products which you're launching in a particular market is through a huge amount of investment which the group does on research and innovation.
Right.
So on a worldwide level, L'Oreal actually reinvests back 1% of its top line or turnover back into R&D. And they're close to almost 4,000 scientists who work full-time for L'Oreal. What we have is about 20 R&I centers in 11 countries across the world. And I'm very proud to say that 2 of them are present in India. So we have close to 120 scientists in India who are working for us in R&I center in Mumbai.
Okay.
And then we have 40 advanced scientists who are working in advanced research in Bangalore.
Wow.
So there is a lot of basis of what the products, the molecules, the efficacy, etc. is taken care of in terms of being ahead of curve for bringing the best products and formulations for the consumers.
You said Ghana, you're leading the category, and of course, you know, in this would be your biggest chunk, right?
Yeah.
And then what about the lower, you know, the lower end of the pyramid? Do we have anything that is catering to that cohort?
Not yet.
Not
so,
yet.
So
But
what
are you
we-
interested?
So no. So yes, we are, of course, because we would want people when they as they become affluent to experience our brands in one way or the other. This is where the format strategy comes into play in a big way. So you may have an expensive product because it's an innovation, it is much more efficacious, etc. Is solving your concern, maybe is part of the trend which has just started somewhere on the planet, etc. But you would still want to have a pie of that. But your put down price in a country like India with a consumer may not be that high. So what they still want is a piece of that dream or for them. So this is where the formats become very important. So as you know, in the smaller formats in India do very well because there are very large number of consumers who would want to experience it. And once they know and once they understand that it really is much more beneficial, because in the end, you know, categories like skincare or categories like hair care, they're not trend driven categories. These are categories which are very effectively trying to solve concerns which people have, right? I buy a skincare product because I have a skin condition which I want to solve and take care of.
Aseem, I completely disagree with you.
Really?
Yeah, of course, because skincare is what people are talking about. These days you have influencers, you have so many people. Suddenly you have Korean routine. Now I do 7 steps before I sleep, 7 steps when I wake up.
Correct.
It's not something my mother ever did and my grandmother ever did.
You're right.
Happy using Pond's cream.
Yeah.
So it's something that you are kind of marketed to and conditioned to believe you need it, right? It's still to be proven that when I grow old, my skin will be better than hers, God knows. But the point is, it's also a great marketing effort by beauty companies, right? So whether I need it or not is questionable. But having said that, we're all getting more and more, we're buying into beauty, right? From using more and more products to now India even looking, of course led by celebrities, looking into treatment like Botox, fillers. It's becoming, common parlance even for an upwardly mobile upper class Indian who aspires to do Botox when she reaches 45 or 50, which is unheard of, right?
Correct.
But to say that it is that we are only using it for what we need, I think I'm using a lot of unnecessary products.
It's great you tend to disagree with me, and maybe we would disagree with each other together, because for me there are a couple of things. So you have to know that why I say what I'm saying is, and let's talk about skincare, for example. And
is that the largest category?
Yes. So if you look at the overall beauty market, our estimates, internal estimates, are that the overall market in India in 2023 was closer to about 6.5 billion.
Just overall?
Yes, euros overall total. And then it should be closer to almost a 10 billion euro overall. So in the next 3 years, by 2027. So the biggest category in this, almost 31% of this, is skincare. All right. Indian consumers, whether it's men now more and more, or women, yes, we are definitely, tend to now take more care of their skin. And it is not why they do it more versus what their parents, a father or a mother, were doing. The fact is, today when you're living in big cities, the kind of external aggression which you face in terms of pollution, in terms of sun, in terms of in general the climatic conditions which have become very different, is the one which is causing a lot of harm to your skin, right? I'm not trying to sell anything here, but people want to make sure that they take care of it. The second part of it is, today, in the age of and the day of today, any brand or product will sell. The baseline of that is authenticity. So if you cannot today go around claiming things which your products will do, which will not actually deliver. So today, with this connected world, you will be shunned very quickly as a product, brand, or whatever you're trying to say, if it is not authentic and not delivering to what it promises. So it becomes very important to when you are successful or you are continuing on a path of trying to acquire more consumers, more routines, etc., for being sure that what you say is being delivered. And hence, coming back to the scientific edge, making sure that the delivery is there, etc., becomes very important. So the consumer may buy, instead of one product which they were using before, a routine of 3 products. But if that routine is not giving them benefit, they'll stop it. And they'll probably post 5 million reviews to say this doesn't work. More and more what you see, and we're kind of continuing on the skincare, biggest category in beauty kind of story, is advice and education, which becomes the founding principle of how this industry is going to go. You tell me what and educate me or advise me of what I need to do, or I will take the education and I will decide for myself, or I will go back to an expert. We are very happy to tell you that last year in August we launched one of our top brands in our dermatological beauty division called CeraVe, and it's doing extremely well.
I'm curious to know, you have 12 of your 37 products in India. You've been given a mandate to double it,
yes.
So heavy pressure. Yes, all the, everything is in favor, all conditions in favor of that achievement. But what are you betting in terms of your big growth drivers here?
So there are 2 things. Let me give you 2 proof points on what will happen. We've talked about affluence, and it will grow, and then people will have more money so they can buy. But when people have more money, they would want to also go out into a nice restaurant to eat, to buy better clothes or the more trendier shoes, etc., which are the rage across the planet. And then this is where I think 2 parts of this beauty industry start to play a part. The first part is, which is led through trends and fashion, which is categories like hair color, categories like makeup, because today in a digitally connected world, it's not one trend which will emerge across the world. People have today the planet is kind of divided into communities. People follow people. People have communities which are believing in certain values, right? And these communities are not in just one country. These are communities across the globe, right? So when trends happen in these communities, when there are talks happening in these communities, there is a new term which we keep using in our office these days, the speed of culture.
Sure.
So the speed of culture is huge, but it is across the planet and it comes to you very soon. So you have to be ready for that. So these are trend-driven categories which will be driven from anywhere across the world, some of them being started in India and going across the world. To give you an example, and we were talking about men, which are 50% of this population in our lovely country and across the planet. We have a range called Garnier for Men in India. Yeah. And this was a range which was created in India by L'Oreal for the first time, and it has then gone across to other countries across the world.
What an achievement.
So so from here to, and then there is of course a lot of things which are coming from outside in terms of the international trends. So makeup and hair color and men is something which we are talking about. And then you talk about skin and hair care. For example, today there is so much sophistication which can happen in hair care, for example. We've all grown up probably using just a shampoo and maybe oiling our hair, right? So I would have gone to a barber when I was growing up, and the only thing I would have done there was a haircut and maybe a hair oil massage, right? From there to what today happens in a salon, there is a long way from there, right? Today somebody is diagnosing with a specific camera your scalp condition which is unique to you and recommending a specific product which can take care of that. It's about balancing, right? Sure. If you have a certain condition, so you would balance it, etc. So that part of hair care. Second part of oils, which is almost 19% of the total beauty market. 19%. It's shampoos and conditioners, or the hair care is about 21%. Hair oil is as big.
Still?
Yes, it is. And we are very proud to have hair oil as a big category in India because it's part of our culture. Yeah. Hair oiling has traditionally been passed on for thousands of years for beauty routine and taking care of our skin or hair, etc. And it's a proven thing which has made us lovely Indians still have great skin and hair. But are there today, negatives of hair oil which you can take care of? For example, stickiness, the grime, the fragrance, etc., can be taken up. And a new format which is emerging now on the top of the hair oil market is serums, hair serums.
Yeah.
And hair serums today are as big in the last 5 years what conditioners have become in the last 15 years.
I see.
So yeah, so relevance of what you bring to the market remains very core. So that's where.
I have to ask you a fun question before I go back into a deep business question. As the managing director of L'Oreal India, how many products do you use?
Lots. Lots.
Really?
And there are sometimes there are products in offing in terms of what we plan to launch. They're most of the time being tested on me as well. So
on a day, you have a regimen too?
Yes, I have.
You do?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you're buying only L'Oreal products?
Absolutely. I think we have enough in our stable to take care of my needs.
Aseem, would you say that, just in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, the kind of confidence we've seen from Indian entrepreneurs to jump into this particular space, simply because you're right, it's so buoyant and there is no barrier to kind of reach the last mile consumer, that we've seen so many upstarts, right, that have kind of come in and have made their own kind of niche in the market. As a consumer, right, as an average consumer who is kind of consuming all this content, right, from trends that I need to follow for my skin, my hair and whatever else, to influencers, paid partnerships and, general consumer activism, which I think is also on the rise. Would you say that is possibly, that don't tell me that it's a very big market and we have a lot of headroom to grow, I understand. But would you say, as one of the most established players who's been doing this for a long time, I have 2 questions. One, would you see this as a threat that you need to kind of be cognizant of? And second, how easy is it for a person to start a beauty brand, and how do I determine the quality of these new startups that are promising beauty, hair and other offerings in such a short span? Because finally it is as good as consuming it, because you're applying it on your body.
Absolutely.
Right? So both of them.
So to me, number one, has the barrier to enter this market and bring your own brand to try and sell with a niche or an innovation or a very specific story? Answer to that, in the last 5-7 years, yes. Yeah? So we see a plethora of new entrants, new startups coming into the industry. So what are they doing in overall to the industry? What they're bringing in is a lot of dynamism to the industry. Why I say that is, I'll give you just one figure to consider.
Sure.
For example, in India, the beauty consumption per capita is about $8. All right. Compare this to an Indonesia, which is about $20. Compare that to a China, which is about $75. So we have a long way overall in terms of per capita beauty consumption to become higher.
So you're seeing the space for everybody.
Yes, there is. The fact, I wouldn't say that it's just a market of very small. We're not a small nation with 70 million people. Right?
But I want to ask you, I have to play devil's advocate.
Yes.
It's my job. You're saying $8, is the average
per year.
Per year.
Yes.
Per year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fine. $8 per year is currently our ticket size, right?
Yes.
How much was it 5 years ago?
Even lesser.
So, no, I'm trying to understand from you.
Yeah.
As Indian consumers, have we grown significantly? Has that shown any big growth?
There are two. So where is the opportunity? So let's say now there are more players in the market. Is it threatening to the existing players to say they will take away market share? If you're not nimble enough to be on trend, to be innovative, to address to the consumers' requirements, yes, it's a threat.
Sure.
All right. If you're nimble, if you're making sure that you're addressing what the need of the consumer is, you shouldn't be worried about it, because what will happen is twofold. One is the number of consumers who will start using beauty will become bigger, right? So there is the penetration of beauty in totality. And then there is the maximization of an individual consumer's capacity to use beauty products. So
Absolutely.
it's maximization. For example, the big thing we talk about is a +1 routine. So is it shampoo? Can you do a shampoo plus conditioner and see that does it benefit you? Because it's beauty for you and on an individual level for it to be relevant. Otherwise, you will not buy. Indian consumers, don't underestimate the Indian consumer. Is my advice. Yes, they are one of the most educated. They are the consumers who know what is available. They can choose very well, and they know also that if there are good products to spend a little extra. So let's not underestimate our own consumers in this country. They are very evolved consumers on a larger level. So we have to all look for making sure that we have a pie of their attention and their wallet for this industry overall.
Aseem, are you a bit concerned, and it's just not you and not your category, I would say overall today, I would say the larger industry issue, just like we've seen the FMCG industries being whacked on their heads, especially the masala segment, the spices and condiment segment, where you've seen a lot of influencers, consumer activists coming to the fore and using the platform which you have just called as a plus. They're using the same platform to come and drive home the point that please look at the labels, read what you're eating. And I think slowly and steadily, people are starting to do that.
Yes.
It is happening. I myself have started reading labels, which I didn't, right, earlier. So I'm saying, are you, as an industry leader, and of course in this particular segment, is this a cause for concern that more and more consumer activists are coming into play? So tomorrow the attack on beauty, already we see that with influencers when they review and they tell you this, that and the other. You're constantly under the scanner. Let's say cut to 10 years back, it was much easier. Life was much easier.
Yeah.
Now you're constantly, so I understand you're building your equity online, and that is more and more important. You also have this growth of independent voices who are going, hammer and tongs. How are you balancing that?
To me, it's a great news to have a lot of activists who come in, who educate the consumers to take care of their part of well-being, right? To me, there's nothing wrong in it. In fact, they are most welcome. Why I say that is today, for example, us. So one of the strategies which we have now in L'Oreal very clearly is to be the beauty advisor to India. What does that mean? What does that mean? So when you go to a store, if there is a beauty advisor standing in that store in the bay, what is the beauty advisor doing? The beauty advisor is helping you choose the right product for yourself, right? So when you're looking at beauty advisors,
but why will I think L'Oreal will be my
not
beauty
L'Oreal.
advisor?
No, so that's exactly.
I will trust you.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm trying to do a sales pitch,
correct,
then I'm not a beauty advisor. If I'm trying to educate and letting you choose, and it could be just not a L'Oreal product, but some other product. It could be an activist who's talking about you should read the full ingredient list on the pack. L'Oreal should be the one. In fact, we are today in most of our products, depending on the space we have on the package, we are putting in the FIL or the full ingredient list, not now, but since the beginning. So it has never been just 3 ingredients which are present there. There are full instructions to use, what are the pitfalls, etc., what to test. For example, hair color, you need to test the hair color with the patch test before. All those instructions are given in. So the more aware the consumer is, the more educated the consumer is, the more the consumer can choose the right quality and the right kind of products coming from the stable of brands, from different companies, which they can trust. So coming back to this whole digitalization, the proliferation of number of anyone who's becoming an influencer
Absolutely.
today talking about buy this product, tomorrow saying buy that product.
Yeah, exactly.
All that will still kind of taper down to authenticity and trust. And this you will see more and more. And of course, the government continues to make sure that the regulations become much more enhanced depending on the new evolving landscape which we have in front of us with the consumers. So,
what would you say is your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge would be there are two things. The biggest challenge in India, which you need to continue to do, is to firstly in-house. There is this huge opportunity of now in the digital world to make sure that you can talk to each consumers, and this is through the amount of data you have today.
You're talking about personalization at scale.
Yes. So then this challenge remains true as to how can you still address one unique consumer every time.
Aseem, I have to ask you, I've
Yeah.
heard this line so often from
Yeah.
so many people.
Yeah.
Why do you want personalization at scale?
I don't want personalization at scale. I want to make sure that you are choosing the right things which you need.
I will.
Yeah. Well, how?
Because I'll do my own research.
Exactly. So when you do your own research, which is your buying journey, to say I will go on Google, I should get 50 brands or 50 things, 50 or 5 people who are talking about how this is to be taken care of. Make sure you're reading this. From there you will probably go to, so the whole story of the the beauty journey or the purchasing journey now has changed, right? So when you will do that search, you will then probably not believe in all the videos you've seen. You will probably go to your friend and you will ask her if she has used something before. Then probably then you will land up in an e-commerce platform, but you will not believe in what is just written on those side on the PDFs, right?
But I think
you will then read. You will see there will be 3 products you would have shortlisted.
Correct.
There will be ratings and reviews. One will be 4.5, one will be 5, one will be 3. The 4.5, the 5 will have 10 reviews and 4.5 will have 20,000 reviews.
Sure.
This is how you will choose.
I will go with the 4.5.
Exactly. So there is, so the idea is to make sure that all this is being done in the overall landscape. It's not about I will tell you. We're not trying to be telling anyone anything. It is making sure that the consumer has enough information and education to choose the best for themselves. That's what the intention is. And that's what the role of a beauty advisor is going to be.
No, I'm just talking about this term because every company
I'll give you an example.
Give me an example.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 examples. So number 1 example I'll give you, LOreal is called the beauty tech company, right?
Right.
So today if you go to any of the platforms where e-commerce platforms, the virtual try-on of the e-commerce platforms where you can actually click and see
My lipstick
what lipstick,
and,
etc.
Yeah.
These are all techs which are LOreal techs.
That Modi face.
Yes.
Right.
So when you go to an Amazon India or if you go to Myntra or you go to Nykaa, etc., the tech for virtual try-on which these platforms use today is ours. Right?
Okay.
So
But Aseem, I may know that.
No,
because
I don't have.
But your average consumer may not know that.
Exactly. So that is where
Okay.
this is where it becomes. Are they testing only my lipsticks there?
Of course not.
No, they're testing everyone's lipstick.
Yeah.
But am I helping them now today to choose from whatever they want to choose from instead of buying 3 and then realizing that it may not be the right shade for them? So this is where the part of becoming a leader and an advisor comes into play. I'll give you another example, which is more scientific from that angle.
Sure.
30 years ago is when LOreal started to not test on animals. All right?
Okay.
And how did that happen across the world? So the scientists in LOreal actually, invented a human skin, artificial skin, which was mimicking the human skin. It's called Episkin. We called it Episkin, and this was a skin on which we started to test all our products on skincare, etc., to see what it does, and not test on animals.
Got it.
All right. This then was something which we had patented, but this was not left to only LOreal as a USP to do it, etc., and lead. Because we are, as a group, the leader in this industry, this technology was offered not only to the rest of the beauty players, but also to the pharma companies. So it's a larger do-good story which starts to happen.
Sure.
So that's where it's not just selling. It's not about that. The consumer knows much more than that. It is helping the consumer to decide and choose the best things for themselves.
Right. How do you look at the under 15 age group and the 60 plus
Yes.
cohort?
So
in India, not globally.
everyone's talking about Gen Z. Everyone's trying to get
Are
their
they
attention.
even called Gen Z?
Yeah,
I think they're called some weird
they,
things.
So,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
so the 15 plus, the 15 and below, we are very clear that these are kids who need to grow up, study hard, and come up. The Gen Z, which is the focus where they start to get into college and then they start to get their first job, etc., is something you want to talk to them in terms of what about your brands, what your brands believe in, what the values of the brands are, because these are kids who are very different from from the other consumers, right? So the choice of brand is more value based. Of course, then it comes to the regular parameters of efficacy, availability, etc., which is common to everyone. In this whole quest of Gen Z, what we have made sure that we don't forget people who are more than 40, all right? And why I talk about this cohort or an age group is because it's an age group which today has propensity to buy. They have the disposable income. They have concerns which are very different from Gen Z. So we definitely, with all our brands, are making sure that we're talking to this age group, whether it is about longevity, whether it is about anti-aging, whether it is about very specific need for their scalp or hair needs.
So if you look at your entire demographic that you kind of cater to,
Yes.
would you say your sizable, the majority of your revenue comes from the 40 plus cohort?
I would say 25 plus.
25 plus cohort.
Yes. And then of course we have a sizable newer, younger generation of consumers who are walking in now and
That's between what, which age group? 18 to
yes.
to 25 or
Yes,
so,
yes.
right? In terms of the L'Oreal offering, you have already 12 products. I know you've become ambitious with CeraVe, launching that. Are we going to see more products in the fold in the Indian market? And where is the average Indian consumer at, and where will you see that average Indian consumer in context to beauty in the next couple of years?
Yes. So for as we spoke about, Sonali, that what we are expecting clearly is another 100 million more consumers to be added to the affluent $20 a day kind of cohort, from 250 that becoming to 350.
Okay.
So there is a large pool of newer, more affluent consumers who will get into this space.
Sure.
That's one. The second bit is as the routines and the gestures become more sophisticated. When you talked about Korean beauty, there are 8 to 12 products which are used by consumers there in terms of the beauty routine. At least from our +1 gesture, there could be 3 to 4 products which consumers will probably start using and become a little more in depth in terms of their routines, etc. And then beyond that, there are categories which would be driven on trends, whether it's makeup or whether it is hair color. And one of the things which we know is going to now also, which we are concentrating on and we know is going to be very dynamic for the coming couple of years, is going to be the fragrance category.
Fragrance.
Yeah.
It's a small category now.
It is a very small category, growing disproportionately
I
high. So we think that most of the brands which are present worldwide and a lot of Indian brands will get into this category. So this will become more sophisticated overall as a category.
Tell me one Indian brand, because you've been in the beauty market, one Indian homegrown brand that you admire, you think they've done a good job.
All of them.
All of them?
All of them. Because all of them are, a lot of them today, there are only very few which have been there for a very long time, for the last 30 years, etc. They are, people know about all these brands. They are people who today are working hand in hand with us together to build this beauty category overall in India. But the newer brands, which are all indie brands, which are coming up from the startup mindset, etc., to get into play, all of them are doing a great job.
Very kind
Yes.
of you. But on that note, thank you so much. I must end by telling you that I myself am a loyal L'Oreal consumer.
Thank you.
I'm one of your 100 million consumers in India and have been for a while. And thank you for keeping the consistency and also attempting to get in new products for the Indian market to try out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonali, for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you.